bit coming in there. I'm going to give it one more minute and then I'll go back. Okay, interesting stuff, value of service. Great. I'm going to go back into the presentation. Thank you so much. We'll share this with you. Please don't stop entering. If you want to put your words in, you can just listen to the voiceover from my side. Value of service and engage. Now, last week we had a presentation which is around your brand, and value of service comes from that. So some nice insights from you guys. Thank you. Why would we bother about network effects? If you look at what has been happening in the past 25 or 26 years, 70% of all value created in technology comes from network effects. I believe this is a reliable source because NFX is an outfit in the US, and these founders have created, built, and used network effects and exited and sold businesses to the value of $10 billion. So their study and experience is really worth paying attention to. And some of the concepts that I'm showing today, I think they've articulated well, and I'll be sharing that with you. If we as entrepreneurs understand this, what is important is category defining companies. And we saw in the word cloud value of service. So once you've determined your value and your brand, to become a category of one or have that kind of unique value proposition, which is digitized, super important, you'll have a category defining company. I'm going to be using two things today as an example so that doesn't feel like a university lecture. Us as a community today, democratizing entrepreneurship. And the second thing, which is Thinkific and exofutures.co.za, where we've got content, and I'm going to be referring to that. What that is about is entrepreneurs are taking their knowledge and capability, digitizing it in a platform, and creating a marketplace, which requires network effects. All right. I want to chat about three kinds of network effects out there, and please start thinking about how this might apply to your business. Thank you. A marketplace would be like eBay or Gumtree, where you will clear demand and supply. Data, this is super important. If you're an entrepreneur and you have knowledge and insights about your customers or an industry, the network effects of taking what you know together with commercially available data and binding that together and monetizing it and putting it out into the market and your own customers is a good example of taking collective intelligence and monetizing that through data and network effects. Platforms such as Microsoft and Google and Amazon, you can build your entire business on there, and that's very useful for B2B type activities. I'm not going to call out everything on this page. I'm just going to open up my pointer and focus on three things today. Platforms, marketplace, and market network are worth paying attention to. A physical network effect would be a landline or fiber or an Ethernet cable going in the wall, and that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about embedding your brand, typically in a two-sided digital marketplace, so that your business runs and you don't have to be there, and you're not limited by hours per day or quantity of people when you engage a market. Network density is important. I've put LinkedIn and WhatsApp over here, and the reason these diagrams are different is that you will have different densities that you need to look out for, where your information and popularity and ratings and service and products are concentrated and recommended between people in different densities. For example, today we've got 30 participants on the call out of a community of 400. We've got a high density today of 30 compared to the other 370 that we should be pulling in. It's important to understand that there's directionality here. When you design this in your business, influencers and followers, it's one-way traffic. There's photos and recommendations and things like that, compared to users such as ourselves, which will go into a marketplace. If you think of digitizing your IP, it will be you creating something on a platform such as Thinkific and exofutures, which will be viewed by many others and then recommended to other people. Now, the reason that is so important, I've taken a screenshot of a website on the top right-hand side, EXO Futures. There is, at the moment, only one entrepreneur on there, and she's got, I think, 6 or 7 modules. What is super important there is have a look at what Amazon did. To get indirect network effects, they increased their inventory massively from books to everything. Now, if we as entrepreneurs can load and put our intellectual property on this site, for example, Lloyd is hosting us today. And I gave an example about 3 weeks ago. Why can't you take a digitized version of your intellectual property and create an avatar where people can self-service themselves, and that hands over the conversation to the psychologist or clinician when you need the human interaction? That's one way to digitize your business, and you get amazing indirect effects there. So you can scale yourself through technologies. Now, I'm going to take Nick and myself as an example. If we take today's course and we make it into 6 or 7 hours, very detailed, and we put it here with Tiana, we will get an indirect network effect when people search for her material. Like, how do I find remote freelancers on Google? They come here and they say, oh, wow, I didn't know I could learn about network effects in the flywheel. I'm going to click on that and take up this course. That is a real life example of indirect network effects that work for us. And if you can imagine that page having 30 or 50 pieces of content, that is a high concentration, high value set of network effects that are really worth paying attention to. Switching costs. If you imagine YouTube on the left and on the right, you think about EXO Futures or Thinkific, switching costs can be dollars or whatever the currency is that you use, or it can be content. For example, if the value of this content is so high, it doesn't become worth it to go back to YouTube if you've got network effects that reinforce everything related to entrepreneurship in one place. All right. So worth paying attention to, we said value, and then I saw the word collaboration in the word cloud. This is where a community such as ourselves come together, and it's not just about you. Collectively, you reinforce those network effects and you benefit both the customers and yourself. Where do you start? I would, must I find people who want to buy, or do I build something first? I would recommend starting with supply. We saw the first part of supply on that website where there's just 1, then it's going to grow to 2, then 4, then 6, then 8. Those network effects are going to onboard new entrepreneurs faster and faster when that becomes known, and recommendations and other students come onto the platform. So it's very useful to start with the supply, which is tough. And I know that Nick is going to speak a little bit about the flywheel, but the flywheel moves slowly first and then it moves faster, and there'll be some detail there. But starting with the supply side, which is tough and slow, and then speeds up. Be careful of multi-tenanting. For example, if you digitize your intellectual property and you put it on 4 platforms, people might leave one platform and go to another one. Like, let's say I upload this on YouTube today. You can go watch it for free, or you're going to pay $50 for a deep dive 7-lesson course. You might never take that up. So if you, as a person, take your product or service and you put it in lots of different marketplaces, be careful, because you might weaken the strength of network effects because you're available in many places, which sounds attractive, but people will go for the cheapest or the easiest one, and then they won't reinforce each other in one place. Useful to pay attention to, which is exactly what can happen here. You might be disintermediated by someone else if you spread yourself across lots of, when I use tenant, think about marketplaces. Something in the chat. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything over there. Oh, there we go. Customer retention is super important. Network effects become weak when people leave. Maybe we've got 30 people here today, and then only 6 of them are interested in more detail. What we need to do is make sure that you continuously watch the service that you're putting out there, or the product. So if you're in consulting, don't sell things that people don't want, because they're not going to stick around. It might be a once-off. And if you digitize your content, you need to revise that thing pretty often to keep it relevant in terms of what's happening. Like 7 months ago, what you put on the internet in terms of content might be irrelevant because of lockdown and COVID and a new world that we're living in. So worth paying attention to there. I won't spend a lot of time on that. Platform business models, I mentioned Microsoft Azure, for example. So you can store all your data in there. You can do your CRM, you can do your accounting, business intelligence and reporting in one place, which is quite useful if you create digital products, because people at the bottom might consume that, such as yourselves, and you might use low code or zero code development, also really worth paying attention to. Given that we are living in a digitized world, don't break your head as an entrepreneur on the fact that you need to understand complicated technologies. Look for the easiest ones, and I'm going to use the word Lego blocks. So when you go to Amazon or you go to Azure, Open Systems is another one, you can use those things and put Lego blocks together much easier than what you would have to do if you had to design it from the ground up. And you put your digitized product out in the market, and the product is different to your IP that's digitized. The one would be training and learning and that sort of thing. And the other one might be self-service psychology that I mentioned earlier. Another one might be self-service AI, something I would offer. Out systems, oh my goodness. Branding, I won't go through that. Here's a busy slide, and I'm not going to explain everything on here, but what I would like to draw your attention to is that there is a canvas that can help you as an entrepreneur to understand these things on the left-hand side, the correlation, same side, and cross side. When I said you've got lots of different people in one marketplace, it becomes super powerful. And here I filled it out with Airbnb. So, this will be relatable to people in terms of, okay, I know how Airbnb works. Let me read this canvas and look at the headings on the left. And how can I apply that to my business? So what I've tried to do is to summarize all of this before I hand over to Nick, is to say, this is what network effects are. Here is what a marketplace looks like. And here is how you can digitize your product in one area rather than many, many areas, and keep those network effects very strong. Now that you have those examples, please have a look at this canvas. This might sound a little bit academic, but I did this for myself. And it certainly forces you to think about, where are my weaknesses? Like, how is my business, Alistair, not getting network effects? I'm not on a platform. I haven't digitized my IP. I haven't created self-service products. I need to go on Monday and make that happen. How do I do that? I'll concentrate on filling out some of these blocks. And you can use this together with some of the recommendation steps that come from Nick towards the end, in terms of saying, cool, I understand that. I understand a flywheel. I can fill this out. And then the steps that come from Nick, what do I do in terms of, the practical or pragmatic action steps that I will take next week? So if I can please ask you, we've got 3 minutes left, if I understand Lloyd correctly. Please can I ask you guys to go back to menti.com. After you've listened to the first part of 3 parts today, the question that I have for you is there anything more that you feel you need to know as an entrepreneur? There's more to come, but this is a temperature check that we're taking with the community. And if you wouldn't mind, please visiting menti.com and entering this code. Excuse me, I'll stick it in the chat. No, Lloyd's there already. Thank you very much. Awesome stuff. So please put this in here. The reason this is so important, folks, is that if you feel there's something that you need, when we do the temperature checks, that is going to help inform future sessions. Voting is closed. Please give me 30 seconds. Sorry about this. Okay, voting is open again. If you can go back, you might need to refresh your page. So this is an open forum for you as entrepreneurs to say, I feel like I need this. And this is free form text again. And to highlight whatever you type in here, your heart's desire. We will respond and we'll bring back content to you to help you as entrepreneurs. If you feel that you haven't got enough detail today, or there's more topics, how do I take risks? Jump off a cliff. Well, you know what I think is practical. How do I take risks? How do I safely take risks as an entrepreneur would be a very useful thing. Working across geographies. Okay, fantastic. I can see that we have to come back to you guys with details. So network effects are designed to cross borders and languages. And that's why you digitize your intellectual property so that you don't have to be there at night when you're sleeping and go across borders. All right, so we've got 2 minutes. Storytelling. Beautiful stuff. Is governance important? Yeah. Awesome. So what I'm seeing here is, there's a session, people are asking, how do I take risks safely? How do I go across borders? There's some practical examples that we can come back with. And this is where I think, for example, Thinkific, you can have Craig and Lloyd and Nick and myself come back to you guys and say, watch this website. This is how you go across borders. This is how you safely take risks. That's kind of what this whole community is all about. Using our collective intelligence can mitigate risk to say, I think I want to do this with the product. What does someone think? Templates. Templates are becoming more and more important here. You have to move fast and you don't have time to invent things. So we'll pay attention to that. Perfect. So I just want to check that Nick has got control, or if you just need to request it from me, I've just handed over. Thanks so much.
Cool. Thank you very much. So what happens if I say that the majority of people who have purchased a product from your company have never spoken to you? They're actually majority of B2B purchases are done before they even have a connection with the vendor. Then we take into a concept that majority of people are losing trust in brands. They no longer trust the brands that they're working with. So how do we take these two major sort of the whole concepts and mental models and put it in to a process that we can actually work with? The traditional funnel approach, it doesn't account for all of these factors. It doesn't account for this linear process and progression. It doesn't show the momentum of anything that you do. It doesn't show a great product. It doesn't show a great experience that our customer might have with you or your company. So this is why we're talking about a more of a whole flywheel approach, because these concepts and methods are a way for you to kind of take all of that into account. So I'm just trying to move to the next slide here. Sorry, Alistair. Move to the next slide. Sorry, guys. I think it seems to be a bit all frozen there. But what I'm trying to get to is that this whole flywheel is not a marketing tool. It's because it's not a tool that you just apply to a process or a point in time that you need, because it's a model. It's basically an approach that you need to take with your whole company. Now, when I say it's a model, I mean it doesn't get owned by marketing. It's not owned by branding or service or any of those one sort of divisions. It's actually owned by a managing director. It's owned by a person who has more control over every point in that process. And it also is extremely important to realize that, so I'm just requesting again, yeah, is that it doesn't replace the marketing funnel. It's not we're not saying that the funnel is dead and hail the wheel, it's none of that sort of speak. It's basically to say that the funnel still has its place in a specific context and a specific point in time. The flywheel itself is looking at the model and the process and how you're looking at our whole customer experience. Because what we will talk about a little bit more is the digital or marketing process and how you would use it in a marketing space. But for now, it's very much important to realize that it's a tool, it's a model that you use in conjunction with your your canvases. It's a tool that you use. It's a model that you use in context with everything else that you are doing to make sure that you're aligning your team to the one central point of why you exist as a company. And the reason why you exist as a company is to make sure that you can actually produce a good service for your people. So if we actually take a look at the funnel to a flywheel, the funnel is kind of a way that you get as many people as you can on top, and you squeeze them until money pops out. I mean, I don't mean money, I mean your customer relationship is very important at the end. Versus a more of a holistic viewpoint to say that your customer is the center of it. So it's that sort of attraction that you got to use to say that attract, engage, and delight your customer, and that process that you take. And that's a momentum. So like any wheel, there's forces at play here. There's a force and there's drag and there's friction at play. So being more mindful of what those are then helps you to craft a bigger experience and a bigger service delivery that delights your end user or customer. Just moving on. Oh, sorry, go back here. So if we say that thinking leads to a final result, and emotion leads to your actions, that's the critical part. Is that if we say that we assume that buyers are thinking more logically, but people don't think people don't make a decision with the logic applied. They make action with emotions. So this whole flywheel itself then says, okay, cool, let's connect that action with an emotion that changes the perception of what your customer views of your product, and they're looking at that whole picture. So that whole flywheel approach is how you take a look at it. So this is moving on to the next one. One of the critical things is that we're not trying to apply this on top of, let me put it this way, as a better way. We're trying to say that we're not trying to add new tech on top of an old structure. We're not trying to say that. We're saying relook at your whole experience and whole service design, the way that you approach it. Hey, are you attracting people? Are you getting them engaged? Are you delighting them? That's essentially what you're looking for. You're not trying to add new tech stacks on top of old structures, because that never works. You're trying to change how you're looking at and that perception of it. Now we're going to just quickly chat about the Amazon case, the Amazon use case, that I think is actually quite cool.
Thanks so much, Nick. Perfect. So I'm going to keep this fairly short. The most important thing to learn about Amazon is the lessons rather than the how, because every business is unique. For example, if you're in consulting and you're providing services, for example, which are not products, that'll be different to Amazon. However, we think that Amazon is a product company, but it's actually a logistics and machine learning company when you buy the product. They're really good at recommending stuff which keeps you come back, and they delight you with super speed in terms of getting that product in front of your doorstep. Their returns policy is awesome. So it's very difficult to go anywhere else in the world and find that sort of experience relating to what Nick highlighted. There's only two things that I want to highlight here on the right. The three F's that we learned from them. You know, when you spin that flywheel, the first time around is super tough, and it takes a lot of effort and energy and design. And, you know, Nick said, look at your service design. That's quite a big job. You don't just flick the light switch and now you've got a flywheel. No ways. There's design, then there's implementation, and then there's reinforcement. And then one huge story, decreasing friction for your customers. I frequently talk about how can you onboard into my business in 5 minutes? Nobody wants to fill out a form or send emails or like pick up the phone and have conversations. I need to see a psychologist now. I want my product now. I want my insurance now. I want my payout now. I don't want to walk into a bank. I want my groceries delivered fresh in 2 hours. When you think that way, that it decreases the friction and it starts to move the flywheel in terms of the customer experience. How you sell on the bottom corner, how important is it to delight a customer? You want them to, that word is so important. And if you use that all the time in your service design, how do I make this person's life awesome and easy? There's some very valuable thoughts there in terms of what you would do. And Amazon started off only with the customer experience before they thought about who's going to come on the platform, the massive variety and all of that. Their fixed cost structure went down the more people that came onto the platform, and the network effects were reinforced in terms of lots of people would come in, which gives you supplier buying power and those sort of things, which reinforces the customer experience and keeps them coming back. Now, a couple of lessons which might be quite obvious to everyone, but I just want to point out, at the risk of repeating this, it's always about the customer and their experience and delight. They will keep coming back. If you sell awesome ice cream, when last were you angry when you had an ice cream? No, you're delighted. You want that experience for your customer. Make them feel like they're having, this is a delightful experience. And, it works. Experimentation is not easy when you're an entrepreneur because you have a tried formula and some people are nervous about risk. But what is important here is to have trusted customers that you can engage with and say to them, excuse me, what do you guys think about this? And then revising your service is super important. What we learned with Amazon, their catalog is like 40,000 products. Now, we don't sell 40,000 things, but we might sell 3 things. They might become irrelevant. That is super important to kind of look into the horizon and say, where's the world going now post-COVID and digitization and like consumption of services remotely and that sort of thing. So regularly monitor what you're putting out there and then think about how you get found and what people are finding. So this search engine optimization to your product, what are the words that people are going to be looking for? They might not be looking for what the name of your product is, but the experience. People don't buy drills, they buy holes in the wall. So what are they searching for? It's a bit abstract, but think about that. All right. Reputation management is also closely linked to your brand. Why is it awesome to deal with Google? Why is it awesome to deal with the DE community? So reputation management for DE would be, it's safe, you've got support, we move fast, we give you information every single week, you'll get access to other entrepreneurs. That's an awesome way of promoting customer advocacy and loyalty. And then the last thing here is, we've heard from Nick what a flywheel is. We learned some lessons from Amazon. And then it takes a lot of force. And if I can replace the word force with design, super important to think, how can I safely reinvent my business in a digitized world that starts with network effects and flywheel design? All right. Importantly, don't lose hope because it's not always easy. And that's why I've put point number 3 here. It stores energy, which builds up because it eventually shifts away from you as an entrepreneur, digitizing your product, to other people advocating what you're putting out there. When they like and they consume and they're delighted, then that energy gets released later. So my message of hope here is, don't give up because it takes time to get there. And then I just want to please hand over to Nick for the next session.
So this is actually the really fun part of it, is that any brand is really running a political campaign. It's continuously just running politics. It's trying to get more votes in, and voters are buyers who validate the product. In a traditional sense, it would take, a couple of months to produce a product or content, and you push it out and you get it done. With the more of a flywheel effect that you're using, and it takes time, as Alistair mentioned, to build up that momentum, but as soon as you do, it's very easy to iterate, change, and produce a product that would have taken you 2 to 3 months to produce a 30-second sort of video. You can iterate and change the entire experience of your users and your customers in the shortest amount of time, because everyone is involved in this customer-centered approach of how you are trying to sell your product. So from a digital marketing point of view, or from a marketing point of view, you would use this. This is a simple view of how this would look, and there's a lot more to it, but from a simple view, it's looking at that attracting and that converting, that closing, and then delighting through the whole service that you provide. And you can see that because as there's more that goes through this whole process, it builds up more of that momentum. So leads to the customer, promoters then help with the marketing, more selling, more services. So it's a more iterative approach to it. So it's very cool. So there's a couple of things to bear in mind. Sorry, it's going back here. I'm just going more forwards. So there's some nice examples, and I don't really want to say trends, but there's some more sort of things that are happening at the moment where people are more inclined to go towards that service and experience rather than brands. Brands are like losing that effectiveness. It's no longer I'm getting Coca-Cola because I like Coca-Cola. I like Coca-Cola because I like the product. I like the experience. So you see that a lot more with the ghost kitchens that are popping up, with the subscription boxes that you get with the brand product, with so that you're more interested in the experience that you have, you're more interested in the product that you receive than in the actual brand itself. From there, we'll also take a look at to say that how do we do this? How do we build that tech stack that actually is going to work? So it's a change of thinking, saying rather than this monolithic way of approaching your tech stack and saying, oh no, it's just something that we need to have and it's monolithic and it's each sort of project and department would deal with its own thing and pass it on. We're saying, no, you need to be more holistic in how you approach your tech. So you're seeing a change from experience, from brand to experience, from heavy tech to leaner tech, to that customer relationship management, more centralized tech, to where everyone in your company, in your department, in your division, or in your team that's trying to work with the product, that is able to, through a no-code or low-code initiatives, or through OutSystems or any of those sort of approaches, to say, right, I can quickly develop an experience or a service that can delight my users, that can delight the people that I'm working with. That's essentially that shift that you need to be looking at. So while the whole flywheel is looking at that attract, engage, and delight, it's that systems and the foundations that's backing it up that then makes that happen. It's not just, it's a tool that I'm going to use and da-da-da. It's the foundations that you build upon it. So that's why we say it's not a tool, it's more of an approach that you need to take. So how does that look like? What are the actual things that you would do in each of those stages? So just go back here one. So as part of that engage and delight, because that whole process, you'd say, right, for the attraction part, you'd use fame. And fame, I mean, things just bouncing around here today. For fame, I mean, it's you'll be looking at your social media, at your marketing, at your paid advertising. So there's paid, owned, and earned, which is a whole nother class in itself. But part of that paid media, that earned media, that owned media is your content development, your search engine, your optimizations, your social medias. Then for that engagement part, you're looking at your website, your emails, your personalizations. But it's not that whole personalization as in that, because you can do that at more of a scale now. but it's that more personable than a per se, because I just don't want to have my name on a mailer. I want to know that you know who I am. And you can do that now through marketing automation, where you can do that more whole personalization through an automated way, but still having that engagement. Because remember, people now can go from discovery to purchase within minutes. You know, they can find your product and purchase your products within minutes. So that changes the game a lot more from the traditional advertising. So that's why the funnel, it doesn't work within a digital space, because it requires a number of steps to go through, and then eventually it goes back around. This, with the wheel itself, you know, the wheels are cool. So wheels itself is that you're looking at that engagement. Then the delight part, that service department, that's really the critical part, is saying, what, how do we really provide that service? A lot of people think, oh no, if I just do a pretty banner ad and people purchase my product, it's over and I'll repeat the process. No, it's that experience part that you're looking at. How do you provide that service? Maybe it's through chats, through chat bots that then that then leads to an engagement. Because when people are talking to other people, they tend to 20% more likely to purchase a product directly rather than through a site. So how do you get them from discovery to talking to your customers directly? So it's that messaging, it's that ticketing, that automation, is that onboarding, and it's everything else. And it's that loyalty program essentially that you have around your product that really provides that growth and really provides that intuitiveness that you need to grow and scale your company a little bit further on. So this is just a prettier slide, because I know that other slide had a lot of text there. So this is just a prettier slide to show at each point, what are some of the things that you'll use. You'll use ads, videos, bloggings, and lead flows, and then smart content that's following on from them. So tools. So it kind of boils down to two main sort of themes or categories of tools that you'll use. So of course, your customer relationship management is the critical part. It's the heartbeat of how you are going to engage with the people that you want to purchase and the people that you want to become evangelists of your product. So it helps you to stay focused on your people. It helps to solve problems quicker. That's essentially the trick, is that solving that problem quicker for the people that you want to purchase your product, because that's what you're out there for, is that your product solves a problem that they have. So how do you help them solve that problem better, quicker, cheaper, in a more effective way? Then your marketing, your automation tools are a way for you to make that experience more smoother and more easier to deal with. And then it's also a way to identify people who support your brand. It's a better way to engage with people on a one-on-one at scale. And then, of course, the critical part that most people kind of forget about is that how does all of this connect up to a more personable experience for your users, your customers? And that's the critical part, is how do you make it an experience and a service? So I know that, our marketing guys talk a lot about experience, and we're kind of sick of it. But experience matters. That service matters. That's what makes a good product from a bad product. So when we're talking about marketing automation, I just want to touch on this very quickly, because it's very important, because a lot of people they fuck it up essentially. There's like 7,000 odd of these services of SaaS and microservices that exist. And then how do you pick it? Because a lot of times people think, okay, well, if I get this marketing automation, this tool, it's going to fix everything, the problems that I have, but it doesn't. For one simple reason, and we get back to this again, is that marketing automation is not there to fix a gap, to find new channels, to find new people. It's there to automate a process that already exists. If your service isn't right, if your experience isn't right, that automation is just going to be repeating that stuff up again and again and again. It's not going to fix or find a solution around it. So that's very much the critical part of it. So that's what you're looking for. Some tools that you can look at. So tools, I'm always a bit hesitant to talk about tools in an open space because tools are very specific. They're flavor orientated. They're depending on context. It's dependent on the way in which you operate. Because remember, the marketing automation itself, it only works if you have more money than time. If you find that you have some money on the side that you can spend, but time is of the essence to what you do, then look at your marketing automation a little more tightly, more closely, because otherwise you'll be just your money will be gone. So look at, if you have more time, if you are looking for more time, then marketing automation can help you. If you don't have that money to spend, then don't go the marketing automation route. Find other ways if you can. So some marketing automation tools that can exist is that there's from a customer relationships to that targeted sort of that or messaging from customer IO are brilliant guys. There's also from, if you have a lot of stock and a lot of product and a lot of pricing, if you're playing in that pricing field, which we kind of advise never to play in a pricing war game. But if you find that you are in a pricing sort of environment, a price sensitive environment, there are automation tools that can check the normal pricing forwards and change and adjust it according to any rules specific. So that helps you with your time. There's buffer, you can do scheduling and analyzing. There's ways to look at it. There's also very nice ones where you can open source your marketing solutions, which is also very cool. So there's different ways to look at it. But from a marketing automation part is that always make sure that you have more money than time. If you have a person who is dedicated to marketing your product, then yes, it makes sense to automate that process. If you have a marketing team that can actually work around these automation tools, then that's great. But don't just jump into a tool because you think it's going to provide you with a fix and a solution, because it's not. It's going to just accelerate a process that already exists, and that's essentially what you want to avoid. So how the flywheel can then help you with that is saying, right, how does this help our whole customer? How are we helping them directly there? So we're just going to take a look at some very quick. So what do you do tomorrow? What do you do on a Monday morning, essentially? That's the real thing, because you say, hey, Nick, okay, cool, I get this, but what do I do? Where do I start? Well, the simple approach is to identify where the force and friction is. So because it's a wheel, forces, as Zaid pointed out earlier, it's at motion. So force has a force on momentum, and friction and drag has an effect on that growth of it. The more force and momentum that you have, the bigger because that velocity and energy becomes. So you need to identify where your force is and where your drag is. So where our force is saying what is our value? And Tilo did a very nice workshop on Friday last week, was brilliant, where she said, okay, right, what is your value? That's essentially your force. Then what is your drag? Is saying, right, where do I lose people? What is it? Is it the messaging? Is it the way that I'm attracting people is the problem? And then our force for that engagement part is saying, right, what is the actions that I need to take to make it more easier for people to purchase my product? Is it this whole thing I need to email them and they need to send whole EFT and a banking? Is that the process that's wrong or broken, and how do I fix it? What are the problems to purchasing the product? And then how do I bring success for my whole customer? It's not just me, but for my people who are purchasing a product or service from me. How do I help them? That's essentially the core again, we're getting back to that. And then why don't store customers recommend me? And find out why not. So we've been doing this in this webinar, saying, right, here, are we doing good? Are we doing bad? Where are we doing, and where exactly we can do better in it? So that's essentially how you can approach it. So I hope that helps. There's a lot more to this, but this is a quick sort of overview, and I hope you guys kind of have the back of your mind that there's momentum and motion that's involved. It's a simple principle. It's been around for millions of years, as long as the wheel has, but we tend to ignore it. We tend to forget about it, and this is the critical part. So there's a quick sort of that whole survey, the mentee, that whole survey. If you guys can just say, what exactly is it that you need to be more successful? And if you can give us some examples, that'll be great. What do you need today so that we can help you tomorrow? So, Alistair?
I think you're on mute there, Alistair.
Can everybody see the survey? It should be open and ready to go.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Perfect. So we're hoping you're going to feel like this guy at the end. Please put your thoughts in there. So this question's a little bit different that Nick is asking. He's saying, as an entrepreneur, to be successful, what do you feel that you need? Because now you've seen 3 big chunks, and this is your opportunity to say whatever you feel that you would need to either augment or in addition or whatever it is that you would want here. Self-belief, positive mindset. Yeah, well, mindset is, there's a whole story there that the DE community's got, the entrepreneurial brain. If you haven't seen it, I recommend joining the community. So self-belief, mindset, and that, there's a lot of stuff that's awesome there. I mean, we've got neural paths to guide you. It's like a map that you can read. And it will really, really help you in terms of these 2 words here, self-belief, positive mindset, and how to get there. Nick, I don't know if you have any thoughts on some of the words as they come up. Mentoring, canvas.
I think it's because it's actually quite nice, because people know that there's a whole challenge that they need to do, and so they're keen to get things done. So it's actually a nice cloud, because it shows that people are looking more forward, they're ready to get involved, they're looking for tools and things that they can actually do now. So it's a positive cloud. I like it. That's my thinking. But the more help with how, yeah, that's what we're hoping with the DE community, that we can help with. Positive mindset, hey, no, that's a given. As our whole entrepreneurs, we always hold positive people. The simplicity, yeah, it's cool. The campuses, yeah, definitely, and more sales, more clients, yeah, definitely. That's one of the things that we need to work on. Cool. Alyssa, I think we're closing up here. I don't see any more that's popping up. Oh, there we go. Value.
Perfect. Value proposition. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
More help with how. I wish we knew how to, whoever put, remember this is all anonymous, so we won't know who put this here. More help with how, if it's possible just to elaborate. You can submit more than once. It's the way we've set it up. Obviously, we want to help as best as possible. So if you put some detail there. Value proposition. Yeah, value proposition is one of the most difficult things. So product, market, customer fit it's tough. It takes a lot of experimentation, courage, a bit of risk taking to find the right thing. And the most important thing around value proposition is to just get out there, ask your customers and get their opinion, because they'll tell you what they want. Rather than, you sit in the room and you think, I think this is an awesome idea, and you create it and then no one buys it, or there's low traction. So experimentation is a big thing.
That whole flywheel effect is actually quite very, very cool. And it's very important because it keeps you very closer to your customer itself. It keeps you engaged with them, and it keeps all of you guys, the whole team, involved around that one person or that all customers, so that you are all engaged. It's not just the marketing team who knows the person that you're trying to sell to. It's everyone from service to engagement to marketing to the service delivery that's engaged with him. So
yeah, perfect. I know, Nick, you're probably quite close to Zappos and how they work. They sell shoes, but everything is about the customer, from when you walk in the door to when you return to online delivery. Like, they started their value proposition by putting the customer in the middle and surrounding their whole business around the customer exclusively. and they're an awesome experience. You wouldn't expect to be delighted with the shoe company, but there's a lot of good things there to learn in terms of design.
You know, one of the key things there, just very touchy, and to talk about this whole flywheel effect, is that a thing to remember is that your employee experience is never going to be more higher than your customer experience. So your customer experience will never be more higher than your employee experience. So then if your employees are not engaged in all of this, your customers are not going to be more higher than them. So that's the critical part. If you're not engaged as a unit, your customers are not going to be engaged.
That's fantastic, guys. Thank you so much for sharing that. We are going to move into a brief Q&A session. I see there's been a little bit going on in the chat, but just you can have a look at the screen now and just scan the QR code if you do want to join the Telegram group to continue conversations, ask questions, and so on. I know that Les had asked, but then had to leave the workshop early. But please join the group and engage. We'll take a couple minutes.
Clarify.
Yes.
So the community is on the LinkedIn Democratizing Entrepreneurship group. This Telegram group is for anybody that wants specific support. So if you want to keep the discussion going, it's a bit of an experiment because we're not getting the kind of engagement that we'd hoped for on LinkedIn. I find that people that don't run the LinkedIn app, only go to LinkedIn when they happen to open the tab in their browser. There's less engagement. So Telegram, we're trying to just increase the engagement, increase the support, and give you the opportunity to keep the conversation going and get some guidance and advice and additional support. So try it out and let's see how we go. Thanks.
Thanks, Craig. We'll move into just a couple questions. There's been a few comments made in the group. Sorry, in the chat. So Zaid has been commenting quite a lot, not so much with questions, I think more responses. And Paul's been presenting a couple of questions. Paul, do you want to ask any of your questions to the guys, and then we can see how they can contribute there?
Paul, you're on mute. Your lips are moving.
Still can't hear you.
That wasn't me. Which Paul was that?
Paul Isink.
Yeah, I was say she was.
I believe.
How's that?
That's better.
That's better.
Yeah, sorry, I'm moving around a bit because I'm holding a tablet in my hand, so I'm taking me off camera there. I need to actually, sorry, quickly move out of my room here because we're multiple people on Zooms. But the question I had, we seem to talk a little bit about momentum and speed of the flywheel, and we had some nice formulas and things like that. But I'm more concerned, what would the exact, more specific metrics be for those parameters? What would you measure for speed? What would you measure for momentum? Just to get a little bit more insight into that.
I can take this one quickly. So it kind of depends on the context. So everyone would, you are what you measure. But a kind of a good example would be, if you're looking for that delight part, you'll be looking at your NPS scores if you do that sort of stuff with your customers. So your customer experience scores, you'll be looking at that. But then it depends if you're running a SaaS or versus a barbershop. So a barbershop would have a different sort of ways in which they're looking at it. They would be looking at how many people are coming through and giving us a good rating. So your surveys would be a simple example of that.
Yeah.
But you're looking at that delight portion, but at every point you should be able to measure it. So that's kind of comes into effect when you start to think about marketing automation and processes. You say, okay, cool, I've got this process and the system in place. How do I measure what I measure? So it's up to you to say, right, what is important to my company? I'm important because what's important to me is one, right, are my customers delighted? Are they
Yeah.
happy with the experience? Hey, am I getting enough sort of people that are engaged with my content? Maybe that's something to look at, you know, from the attract part. If you're looking at attract, it would be that, yeah, that engagement, and not just view, that whole viewership, but actually engage, and then looking at that. So it depends on the context. So MPES scores, survey scores are the simplest ways and the quickest ways, but then it also depends on what exactly is it that you're trying to achieve in your specific set. If you can give an example.
If I can just pitch in. So yeah, net promoter score for Delight. I think for reducing friction and you know, measuring the effectiveness of engaging with the customer, cost to acquire customer is a great one. And then for the momentum thing is customer lifetime value. So if your customers are, you know, able to keep buying, they keep coming back, then your customer lifetime value will increase. So for me, those are three critical ones.
Okay, Craig, that's great. I mean, that implies that there could be some sort of a hierarchy in the measurements, and
yeah,
you know, so you get the overall one. Okay, that's fantastic. Thanks very much. There was another question that I asked as well, and that was, and it gets, I suppose it dovetails what we said here, and that is, it seems that there must be some kind of implied correlation between speed and then the momentum of the flywheel, speed of delivering of service. So I mean, if you can offer things quickly, fulfill quickly, you know, is that a critical thing? I mean, that kind of talks to what goes into product strategy, you know.
So I wouldn't say speed as the priority. So you want to ship it as quick as you can, but you want to make sure that it fits in with that experience that people want and expect. You know, if they're expecting a quicker service, because that our service would come, but that momentum would then naturally help with that speed. So you'd have that mass versus momentum, and you'd basically help, and that would breed the speed. So speed wouldn't be the main thing. It would be that momentum that you're looking for, and then trying to find out where those friction stops are. So removing the friction that you might have within that process would then allow for a quicker speed to then pick up, if that makes sense.
Okay, so relative and contextual.
It also depends on the nature of the business, Paul. For example, if you're working in the digital domain, speed is the cornerstone of part of the experience. But if you're going to a restaurant, you don't want to rush a beautiful experience. So when you're focusing heavily on the experience, speed might not count. If I go to a water park, I don't want to get out of there and like it's over. I want it to be uncrowded. I don't want to stand in a queue. That's where the speed comes in. So speed and experience might behave differently, and you might measure different things, but please keep that in mind in terms of both the service and the product that you're putting out there.
Okay, great. Thanks very much.
Great. Thanks for those comments, Paul, or those questions, and thanks for the responses, guys. I'm going to hand over to Craig now, who's going to just give a brief summary of the workshop, just before I head into some exciting things that are coming your way.
Awesome, thanks. Lloyd, how much time have I got? Because there's 3 slides, so I can make it as quick or as long as you need me to. So we started with, are you hearing me? Because I asked the question.
About 5 minutes, if that's okay.
Okay, you are hearing me. Yeah, no, that should be good. So we started with the notion that in these exponential times, they consider exponential possibilities, you know, and I think that's really what this community is about, is really having a safe place where you can explore, experiment, and learn about what's possible in these exponential times. And network effects, you know, is really about exponentiality. And they've been responsible for 70% of all tech created value since 1994. Category defined company, so it reminds me of the notion of a monopoly of one. You know, the more you're specific about the category that you're focusing on, the more you create your own monopoly and compete on your own terms. Then there's 3 kinds of network effects: so marketplace, data, and platform. And I think the key point about, you know, the environment that we're creating here is we're actually creating a marketplace where everybody can participate, where you can bring your own data in the form of your own knowledge to the table to digitize, and you can put it on a platform where we can all share and benefit. And as Alistair pointed out, as the number of people that are doing that increases, the opportunity for everybody increases. So it's kind of flipping the traditional scarcity mindset on its head, where you protected your value and your offering and your secrets aggressively. It's more sharing, because the more you share, the more you get back, and the more everybody can benefit. Embed your brand in a two-sided marketplace as part of the opportunity. And if you have a look at exofutures.co.za, that's the environment to digitize your business and enhance the network effects that, as we're alluding to. Start with supply of your digital content. So we've taken some effort to build the community, and we celebrate the fact that we've gone over 400 participants, but now's the time to actually start to create your own digital content in a place where we all collaborate, sorry. Be adaptable and keep refreshing your content. So it's not a one-off exercise. We always learning, always be adapting, always be experimenting, and continue to digitize your learnings in this context. There was quite a bit of talk about no code and advanced automation. I think that's a topic for a separate conversation on a separate day. I think the important point is that a lot of what's happening is being built out of the digital economy, and it's not rocket science. Increasingly, the tools that are available are simpler and easier to use, and we can support you guys in accessing that kind of ease of automation, advanced automation, especially with things like AI. The network effects canvas gets you to address the fundamentals. So Alistair showed you that, and we'll share that with you. And the DE community is here to help you take this further. Then in terms of finding your flywheel, so there's inertia at first, then momentum. Sorry, my M's and my commas got mixed up there. I'll fix that. You need to find the ways to reduce friction, and as energy is stored and released, you'll get that flywheel effect happening. So there were examples of brands moving to experience, and I made the note that as you build a tribe and they subscribe to the experience that you offer, you'll get more and more momentum. Then you need the leanest possible tech stack. So the days where you installed a CRM system and hoped like hell that your customers and all your customer value and your customer journey and your customer value proposition was clear on that CRM and allowed your customers to engage more effectively with your company, those days are gone. Anything is available as a service these days, but it's very important, as Nick said a couple of times, not to just automate the process that you've got, but rather to be very lean, focused and orchestrated on the services that will create a frictionless customer engagement, to attract, engage, and delight digitally with the flywheel. So that's about frictionless experience with speed, digital marketing engine that encourages customers to solve their problems. So a digital marketing engine is about having access to and automating the processes without having to have people doing follow-ups on LinkedIn and posts on Facebook and all that sort of thing. You can automate to a very large extent. So marketing automation doesn't make for digital business. A very important point that Nick made about automating what you've got with marketing automation. Running a digital business and creating a digital business is not the same as marketing automation. Marketing automation is not being digital. It is just automating the marketing process that you might have. Being a digital business requires you to look at every single aspect of your business and embrace advanced automation, make it as frictionless as possible for the customer to engage with your products and services without actually people interfering or intervening, slowing things down. So on Monday, find force and friction through value versus losing customers, clear value proposition, remove friction and obstacles, enhance customer success to increase recommendations. So entrepreneurs need, mindset is fundamental, and the entrepreneurial brain is a way to see how fundamental that is. You need mentoring, you need tools to remove friction, You need help with how, and that's part of what we're building in this community. And you can share clients. You know, each of us have a unique value to offer in this kind of space. So we're sharing clients. We're not keeping our clients to ourselves and being protective and aggressively competitive. That's the old style. The new style is everybody shares their knowledge, shares their experience, and actually shares their client base as well. So test your value proposition within the community. It's a safe place to learn and grow. And Zaid made a number of excellent contributions. The one was this flywheel energy sustains you in difficult times and increases resilience. So that's really great. And then the point about measure delight with NPS, cost to acquire customer to understand the extent of the friction, and lifetime customer value to understand that your customers are coming back. And I think that's it. Yeah. Over to you, Lloyd.
Just unmute myself. Thanks very much, Craig. Definitely a lot to think about. I think everybody's flywheels in their brains are spinning over, and hopefully on Monday there's going to be a bit of momentum to get the week started. But definitely a lot of good points to consider. And I've seen there's been people have definitely valued the session. A lot of thanks coming in the chats. So thank you. Thanks for that. I just want to take a couple of minutes just to talk about some exciting things that are coming from the DE community. So next week, Friday, there's going to be another free workshop. And this workshop is going to be on the resilient entrepreneur and how to strengthen resilience in times of crisis and uncertainty. And this is going to be presented by Grace Jensen. And the links will all be available to you. Check your emails and check the LinkedIn community as well as Facebook. So this workshop,
Grace is on the call. It's Grace Jansen, and we're delighted to have her and look forward to next week.
Thanks, Craig. And sorry about that, Grace. So this workshop will provide you with the skills and a toolbox to help you strengthen your resilience as an entrepreneur. And the outcomes that you'll achieve by the end of the workshop are to understand the principles of resilience, acquire reflective skills that I need to develop as a resilient entrepreneur, and receive a toolbox that you can use to help you through the times of crisis and uncertainty. So it definitely sounds like something not to be missed. Next week, Friday, so add that to your diary. And there's some other exciting courses that are coming on the Thinkific platform that's been referred to quite a lot today. So there's the first one from Tiana Momarev, who did a workshop a little while ago that some of you may have been part of. But her course on there is how remote freelancers can help you, help your next lean startup. And this is how remote freelancers can help really support you. And these are going to be live courses. So they're going to be streamed, and it's going to be starting on the 4th of December. She's going to share her experience based on years of client work, offline and online workshops and mentoring. And in 7 live weekly chapters, you'll also have the opportunity to, for extensive Q&As with her and breakout room exercises with other startup founders. And the course can be purchased as a full bundle or any number of individual workshops. So please keep an eye out for the details for that. And there's some other exciting courses coming. We've got Thinking as a Superpower by Liesl Marie Reed, who's also done a free workshop not so long ago. And this is about developing your thinking skills to assist you with problem solving and looking for opportunities and to brainstorm new possibilities for your entrepreneurial business. We also have Alistair, who's going to be loading one of his courses, which is AI for Business Leaders. And this is a non-technical introduction specifically designed for people in business who would like to infuse AI into their own business and value proposition to their clients. I will also be presenting a course that's on the mindset of the entrepreneur, where you'll learn how our mindset sets a tone for what we do and how we do things, and how you can shift this to the mindset that you need. And then lastly, we have Liesl van Rooyen, who's very much a part of the DE community. And she's going to be presenting how to set goals and achieve it in 2021. And she's going to be talking about 6 steps that will work to help you set the goals and achieve them in the year to come. So some very, very exciting things coming. please stay connected, watch the various platforms, see what's happening, connect with us, engage with us, join the chats, join the communities, and just help us grow the space. As Craig said, the DE community on LinkedIn's surpassed 400. I think it was just this morning, so that's very exciting. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. I know some people have left already, but Nick, Alistair, thanks so much for sharing your insights, your experience, your understanding. I think people have definitely valued and taken a lot away from us, so thanks very much. As I said, keep an eye on the various platforms for some follow-ups and more exciting information. And Craig, I think just the next slide. There should be.
Yeah, and just very briefly as well, we're also going to launch a subscription model so that it becomes easier and cheaper to get access to all of the premium content that Lloyd mentioned. So if you're part of the community and you subscribe, and it will be at a pretty low value, we're still experimenting with a low cost, high value. We're still experimenting with what sort of cost that should be. You will be able to get access to the content without paying for every single course at its premium value. So thanks for that.
That's great. Thank you, Craig. There will be, see somebody's asking for the recording. Please keep an eye on your emails for the recording and follow-ups and summaries and so on. But guys, thanks so much for joining us today. So nice to see you all and to see some new faces. Have a fantastic weekend and get those flywheels spinning. Thanks very much, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Alistair. Thanks, Nick. Awesome. And happy Thanksgiving to the Americans and anyone else who celebrates Thanksgiving. Cheers, guys. Thank you.